Zoom call give me a second, is about mental health in the Asian American community. So, um, can I go to the next slide? Okay. Hi, my name is Pritika Singh, as Alec mentioned earlier. So thank you everyone for joining and taking time out of their day to attend and support this cause. I'm really thankful for this opportunity. And I've been working on this project for a while and I'm really excited to share it with everyone. So first of all, we're going to address the problem statement, the question, and just wanted to mention that there are mentions of suicide in this presentation. So mental health issues exist everywhere, and then they're beginning to become widely recognized. So we have the DSM-5 today that has been diagnosing millions of patients all throughout the country. And honestly, an individual deserves treatment for anxiety or depression just as they would for any physiological condition like cancer or heart disease. So why is there so much stigma around mental health, and why is it so prominent among Asian Americans? So as I mentioned, it is more prominent among Asian Americans. So here are just some statistics about that. So suicide is the second leading cause of death for all Americans aged 15 to 34. And for all racial groups of all ages in America, it is the 11th leading cause. However, for Asian Americans alone, it is the 8th leading cause. And Asian American women are reported to have higher rates of suicidal thought than those of the general US population. So it is a primarily targeting Asian people over other races. So what is really contributing to the stigma? Through some research, I found 4 factors that are really pushing this stigma within the community. So number 1 is lack of understanding, which can object young Asian Americans to feel invalidated when they come forward with mental health struggles. So this doesn't solely target Asian Americans. It targets a lot of different groups and different communities. And honestly, it is just harmful to anyone struggling with mental health issues. I've seen a lot of people when there is a suicide that has arose in either our own community or outside, where someone will say something such as, they were so successful, they were so extroverted, why did something like this happen to them? When in reality, questions like these prove to show that people don't fully understand what mental health issues are. So it isn't always, if someone were to pass away from a heart attack, people wouldn't be asking the same question that they were so successful. Why did they die from a heart attack? And it's because people often tend to see mental health issues as a choice rather than a situation. And it can lead to making it harder for people to get help within our community, the Asian American community, and just other people in America. So second off is culture. This one is mainly for Asian Americans. So Jeffrey Liu, a professor at University of Maryland, has claimed that there's a cultural aspect for the stigma, considering that for some Asian Americans, your value as a person depends on your ability to take care of your family and community. So this is really a double-edged sword, because the person coming forward with a mental health struggle in their family may be seen as invaluable because they aren't even able to take care of themselves. So they aren't expected to be able to take care of their community or their family. And it also can affect, if a child comes to their parents with a mental health concern, it can also reflect poorly on the family. They might think that they have failed to take care of their family, and that is why their value as an Asian American may feel challenged, causing them to feel a little defensive and perhaps brush the problem away, which can lead to increased stigma. So honestly, this is not true. If someone comes forward with a mental health problem, it is nobody's fault. It is a situation, and it can happen for numerous different reasons. There are multiple risk factors. And it targets young teens because they are developing minds in this world, and it's just very possible for someone to struggle with it, and it is no one's fault. Next is something that I found really interesting, because I actually found this through researching, and it was something I didn't even know about earlier, but Asian Americans specifically face a pressure of being the model minority. So this phenomenon is known as a subconscious mindset that has been developed by a lot of Asian Americans, and it stands in the way of them receiving help when it comes to mental health, because they feel that they may be vulnerable and they may not uphold that standard that they have self-appointed as the model minority. University of Maryland had a study that said many Asian Americans report to face extreme academic pressures. So this goes into the education aspect that adds to the stigma. A lot of mental health struggles with Asian Americans are dismissed by their own family because It's an attempt to keep them focused on school, education, college, which also ties into that political side of it of upholding the model minority. So let me go to the next slide. Sorry. Here we go. So what can we really do? It takes a community, honestly. There are 3 really important things that everyone can do to really help stop this stigma. So number 1 is acceptance. The statistics are increasing and they're super concerning. It is not right that the second leading cause of death that is targeting people who are young and they have their whole life ahead of them. It's really important to accept that someone around you may be struggling, and if they are, that it is okay. While it may be difficult to accept that someone we love is struggling, it's harder to leave them to struggle on their own. Taking acceptance and understanding that someone may be going through something is the first step to supporting them, which is the second thing that we can do to help erase the stigma. So to any parents or anyone who may have learned something, use the learnings to support anyone struggling around you. It doesn't have to be a young adult. It doesn't have to be an Asian American, but anyone that is struggling deserves support, especially if they're facing issues from this stigma. Lastly, is just creating awareness. It's really hard to stigmatize something that becomes normalized. If it is normalized to have mental health struggles and education about it is normalized and people have better understanding of it, it will really help the stigma become erased from the Asian American community and other communities. So it's just important to discuss mental illness as a situation rather than something that they're choosing, so that people understand what it really is. Anyway, so thank you so much for watching. If anyone has questions, they can email me and anything else. So please email if there's any questions or ask right here. So thank you so much for watching.
Great, thanks so much, Pritika. And yeah, if anyone just goes ahead and puts it in the chat, I will share that with the group as well. Pritika, will you be able to share this PowerPoint with anyone that may be interested in that?
I might be able to link it right in this chat. Let me just try to find out how to do that. Yeah, I can link.
Oh, fantastic. That'd be great. And after the meeting, everyone will get a form will pop up with a survey about the seminar, and then that link that I just put in the chat is the same thing. So either way works.
Okay. And then let's see. What do you think NAMI Eastside could do to support mental health in local Asian American communities? I think honestly providing more available options for education. I think that because there's so much stigma, it's really hard for an Asian American person who may not fully believe in mental health to even come to something like a webinar or the mental health conference where I also presented it. I think creating more like broad education opportunities where there's a lot more places where people can go to learn about it, even when they're not going just to learn about mental health, and just mostly spreading awareness as much as possible through either social media or in larger communities like schools or somewhere, workplaces where people will be, so that they can become more educated. The second question is, what do you find to be helpful for you and your friends to address mental health needs? So for me, I did struggle with depression, and I think one thing that was helpful was to do my own research and to realize that there are a lot of different options, especially for people who are over 16 in the state of Washington. They are legally allowed to take charge of their own mental health, and they don't need to have approval from anyone. So if you believe that you're struggling and you think you need help, you can reach out. That is also helpful. And I think just having a support group, which as shown in my slide was the second stage of helping, and a support group is just really important for someone who needs someone to talk to, even if it's not about what you're struggling with. It helps erase one of the risk factors for suicide, which is feeling hopeless or unloved. And I think it's really important to address mental health needs when you have a support group so that you feel more supported coming forward and discussing it. And then thank you for the questions.
All right. Um, well, hearing no objections, want to thank you, Pratika. That very informative, great presentation. Yeah, also want to thank everyone here and Evergreen Health for sponsoring this monthly forum, making it possible. And oh,
Oh, how can we
perfect. Another.
Yeah, so the question is, how can we engage Asian American parents to spread awareness? So that was a little bit of what I was saying earlier, is how can we engage Asian American parents? I mean, the same thing goes, is that the fact that there's so much stigma means it's harder to get a message like this out to people who aren't going to places to learn about it. So I think creating areas like in a workplace where there's maybe like a NAMI sponsored like workshop or an awareness seminar where they attend it, where they're in a position where they are kind of just there to listen and they're not going out of their way to find something, because a lot of people who aren't in belief of it won't do something like that. I think that could be really helpful to really spread the message and just help people gain a better understanding. It's no one's fault to not have an understanding. It's just a lack of education, it's a lack of knowledge, and it's a lack of enough people talking about it to understand it.
Sense. And also, Pratika, I did want to ask, so you had two parts sort of to your project for the Youth Ambassador program, and the first part was a survey. Are you still taking responses for that? Is it helpful to have that data? Or
I am taking responses. I found that from the survey there weren't as much results. I found it kind of biased because they were targeting like specifically just schools or just people who came to the mental health conference, and it wasn't reaching like a broader spectrum. I found it more helpful to find like statistics from like more trustworthy sources or from university studies. So I just kind of went towards those instead. But thank you for asking. I can provide the QR code, but I'm not very much accepting like as much results anymore into the project.
okay, yeah, I was just curious. Yeah, it did show that a lot of the information came from
Yeah.
higher education, well researched
You
sources. It was a great
participated
project.
or attended an ending silence presentation. Are you aware of student reactions to this type of? I actually have not presented a ending of silence presentation. I would like to. I think my mom did attend one, and then I am part of the NAMI program, so I am looking forward to attending one soon. And I am not aware of the student reactions to these types of presentations. Is there something particular that I should know about?
Mostly, I was curious if students felt it was authentic and
Mhm.
helpful, um, as opposed to abstract or canned or
Hmm.
preachy or whatever. So I know a lot of changes have been made to ending the silence.
Right.
And I know that Edie's been working hard to try to get it to a lot of schools. But I was just curious if there's been some kind of um, response from people that, they found it helpful, or what they wished was in the presentation, because we're always looking to make it better.
Okay. Okay, good to know. Yeah, I'd be really excited to join. And oh, I see another question regarding the same thing. Let me see. So if you get us contact information for folks at your school, we can get ending the silent presentation scheduled there so you can see. That would be really great. Yeah, I can email that to you, Edie, with contact information, because I think that would be really cool. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, that does sound great. Okay. And then I think that is the last of